The direct hit by militants in Gaza on an Israeli bus sparked the string of Israeli airstrikes in the coastal enclave. This is how Palestinian media broadcast that incident. Israel's response on the ground was to target Hamas facilities. One such target, a Hamas-affiliated television channel. Here's how the Israeli military presented that event via its Twitter account.
بحبس الحرامي والبيعمل مشاكل وبطخ اليهود صح؟ انت بدك تصيري زيه؟ ان شاء الله لما تكبري لما طخ اليهود كلهم ليش بدك تصير مهندس؟ عشان افجر اليهود.
وجود اليهود خلف كل مؤامرة من المؤامرات هذا، وانت لاحظ يمكن أكثر من ثلث القرآن يتحدث عن بني إسرائيل، ليس طرفا علميا وإنما من باب أخذ الحيطة والحذر في كيفية التعاطي والتعامل مع هؤلاء الحافلات من البشر.
Joining me in studio, former Director of Peace Now, Yariv Oppenheimer, and Executive Director of HonestReporting, Daniel Pomerantz. Gentlemen, thank you for your time.
My pleasure, Tracy.
I want to just get to your reactions, first of all, to the way that both of those stories have been portrayed.
Yeah, the first clip is actually pretty amazing because what we see is a Hamas video clip that's showing that Hamas could kill much more Israelis. The bus was empty, and they decided by purpose to attack the bus when it's without any soldiers on it. Only one Israeli soldier was badly wounded, but it's much less bigger than when you got 50 soldiers in the bus. So this is the way of Hamas to show, you see, we can watch you, we can threaten you, we can kill many of you, but we are making the decision not to do it and just to harm you.
Was that on purpose, though? They wouldn't have known that all the soldiers were going to get off the bus and then...
I think that they are actually doing many things like the Israelis. We have this thing in Israel that when you are aiming a big building, like the television building, then you got this knock on the roof procedure, that an airplane is knocking on the roof with a small bomb in order to make the people evacuated. So Hamas is actually saying we are the same. We would not like to see many casualties. We don't want to break all the rules, but we would like to harm you and to show you that if you will make the decision to do it even worse for you, we have the ability and the capability to do so. So it's an amazing thing. I think that altogether, eventually, what we are seeing is that in the Israeli side, what the Israeli public is getting is mostly the siren and the missiles coming from Gaza to Israel. We don't really see the misery, the harm, the things that the Palestinians in Gaza are facing in this struggle. And the people in Gaza, I guess, what they are seeing is the Israeli airstrikes, and they don't see so much what is going on in our side. And I think that when the narrative in Israel is that we are the victim and they are winning, and this is in many ways the message coming from the media until now, so the motivation in the Israeli side to show revenge and to look for some kind of a victory picture is bigger than reality. Well, and I think that in many ways we are the Israeli public, we are not being exposed to what the army is doing in Gaza, and in many ways the Israeli army spokesperson is trying to do his best in order to show it for us, so people in Israel will feel good that we are not just...
Well, I'm glad that we finally have somebody to speak up for the compassion and humanity and good wishes of Hamas, because people almost never talk about that. They have, so it's nice to hear that you're speaking up for their good soul, because strangely, almost every country in Western civilization puts them on exactly the same terror list as ISIS and the Taliban, and of course Al-Qaeda, which is Osama bin Laden's organization, and for good reason. In the past 24 hours, they fired 460 rockets at Israeli towns. They blew up several apartment buildings. They killed a number of civilians, including the driver of that bus, an Arab-Israeli civilian whom they killed. I've been watching Palestinian media today. I've not heard any statements that anyone was trying to exercise restraint. In fact, to the contrary, there was quite a bit of bragging about just how powerful they are, bringing the war home to the Jews and destroying them.
I just want to, because we're straying from the point in terms of what the intentions are of the people actually enacting the force, and rather the way that these stories are being portrayed to the people that are here to digest them. And I want to get your response on that.
Well, on the Palestinian side, I've seen two contradicting stories. One was that the casualties are fighters and that they're brave and that we should be proud of them. In fact, they actually published photos and names and ranks and affiliations of the fighters. Then shortly after that, I saw stories saying that everyone was civilians and that all of Israel's targets had been civilian targets. And this is not unusual. In 2009, Hamas claimed that everyone who died was a civilian. The Palestinian people got very upset, saying, well, if everyone who died was a civilian, why are all our fighters staying home safe and sound? Suddenly Hamas came back and said, no, we didn't mean it. They were actually fighters. And now we see that double story over and over. They were fighters, they were civilians.
Reality is very complicated. And if Hamas is like ISIS, so how come the Israeli government is talking with Hamas and even giving money to Hamas? So it's not so
easy. The Israeli government is doing hang on. If we're going to have this discussion, we have to do it based on real facts. The Israeli government does not talk to Hamas, and the Israeli government does not give any money from Hamas.
Fine, let's talk about facts. Israeli government is talking with Egypt, and Egypt talking with Hamas. If it's making you feeling differently, it's okay. But altogether, eventually, what we have here is actually the Palestinian with Hamas being in charge, and we saw the video of the bus, and the video of the bus is a real thing.
Where they destroyed an Arab Israeli civilian bus driver.
By the way,
did you watch the videos of the apartment buildings blowing up? Our managing editor Simon today was down.
I just want to get to the result of what these videos are. Is the desire here from either side to further sow discord, to further fill the people of their communities with hate and fear towards the other?
I don't think so. I think, first of all, on the Israeli side, we didn't get to that. The Israeli message has been that we're being hit with hundreds of rockets and we're responding against military targets.
And looking at the videos that were presented to Israel, to the Israeli audience, of the Hamas television channel that's showing that this channel that's being distributed and teaching children to hate Jews, and then this victorious explosion on that building saying we destroyed a building that's causing us harm. It's also instilling fear in Israelis towards Palestinians.
We have several questions going on at once.
And vice versa.
I think when blowing up a television station was very important for them to emphasize this isn't free press, this is an arm of a terror organization that we blew up, and not CNN. So that was very important for them to say. But on the Israeli side, the message is we're here, we're protecting you, we're taking care of you, which is something that the residents of the Gaza envelope have been complaining about for some time. On the Palestinian side, the message is that we are strong fighters, we are standing up for you, we are fighting against the occupying enemy.
We are not in a balanced situation. The Palestinians living under our siege and under our occupation. They are not free people like us. They don't have a state, and their message, also in the studio, in many ways, is to resist. And when Israel let me finish. Because
you're using rather misleading vocabulary here, Yariv.
Before Israel established, the Zionist movement here in Israel did many things that today considered to be terrorist attack, and they did it because we didn't have an army, we didn't have a state, and when you don't have it, I'm defending the truth and the reality. And the reality is that it's not a balanced conflict, and because it's not a balanced conflict, so the messages are not the same. We have an army, and in the Israeli press you can
Hamas
see
doesn't have an army?
They don't have what they are calling.
Who are all those people in uniform firing weapons and rockets?
Terrorists, right? They are not an army. So this is why this.
I'm sorry. So that makes them weak and innocent.
It's not a weak and innocent, but this is.
I'm not letting you get away with this today, Yariv. I'm going to be hard on you today.
I'm saying exactly the truth. truth, and the truth is that you got two narratives.
Is that Hamas is helpless and peaceful and...
In many ways, the Hamas is the weaker side, for sure.
Though,
and they know that they are the weaker, and it's good that they are the weaker.
Disseminated to the public on either side, because these are the people that obviously vote that vote for their leaders, that decide how they feel, how safe they feel, and who they want to be leading their country. Are these videos not further instilling either side with fear of the other?
I really don't think that that's their purpose. I think the purpose of the videos on the part of Israel is to give Israeli people the feeling that they're being protected. And
really?
On the part
because I watched that video as someone that lives in Israel, and to me it appears that there's a Hamas television channel that's teaching Palestinians to hate
This
Israelis.
is the way to delegitimize the other side and to allow the Israeli government to take any action.
Was there something about that TV station that was legitimate?
No, I didn't like
what was legitimate about it?
The legitimate thing is that eventually you got your neighbors living next to you, and there is two options. Either you are taking in charge of them and you are forcing them to get your message, or they are free to decide whatever they like. And because they are living under Israeli occupation, there is resistance to occupation like in any other place in the world. This is the reality.
Every other place in the world?
You can condemn reality.
I'm sorry, how many other places in the world have had apartment buildings blow up like this?
How many places in the world you got 11 years of siege, the 2 million people living in this small jail being controlled by your government or by any government? You don't have this experience.
Actually, I'll tell you,
anywhere in the world.
Except for 124 countries in the world, none of which are held to this standard or behave the way Hamas does.
But they are not a state, by the way. And I think, you know, I'm
so
not...
that makes it okay to blow up I think we're getting a little bit off the point here.
No, it's not okay, by the way. And you know what Hamas is saying? Again, it's not protecting them. It's, look at the truth. Hamas is saying once we will have accurate missiles like Israel will have, we will aim only on army bases and not
a narrative that can be disseminated on either side to perhaps help the people and the leadership see eye to eye and hope to end the hate that is and the fear that seems to be fueled, especially in a time like this, on either side of the border. Dan Pomerantz, Yariv, Oppenheimer, thank you for that insight.